Hi, my name is Lisa. I am with the SHARE project here in Haywood County in Waynesville. And SHARE stands for Spreading Hope and Awareness and Removing the Epidemic Stigma. And today, part of my interview is about spreading awareness, as well as just the conversation that we're having is doing a part of removing the stigma, because of we're talking about addiction and substance use. So anytime we can talk about it and talk about resources and solutions is a way of removing the stigma. So today we're going to focus on awareness. I am here with Tyler Trantham. He is with the Waynesville Police Department. We're going to talk specifically what his role is in the police department as we go through the interview. But I am going to let him kind of take it away first and tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got into law enforcement, how long you've been with the Waynesville Police Department.
So I've been with the Waynesville Police Department since 2004, and I grew up here in Waynesville, and just this is where I landed, and decided to make a career out of it here, and I've been very fortunate. And I currently lead our investigations division, and which is made up of several detectives, including those that work general detectives, specialized crime like child abuse and narcotics.
Okay.
And so I've been in investigations for a majority of my career as either a detective or in a supervision capacity.
Okay, and you like what you do, I assume then,
yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Did you know that you always wanted to be in law enforcement growing up, just out of curiosity's sake, or?
I think so. I don't know that I knew that this would be the direct path, but obviously as I grew older and decided that this is what I wanted to do, I definitely wanted to be in investigations, and really all I ever wanted to be was to be a detective. So
Okay.
I've been able to, been very fortunate to be able to accomplish those things.
Yes, yes. Okay, so my understanding is, too, you referenced it there a little bit, narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is that you are at least head of the LEAD program. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, well, we work together. Obviously, there's a couple of us here that, myself and another detective, that kind of coordinate or manage that, if you will,
Okay.
from the police department side
Okay.
of things here at the police department.
Okay, so tell me what LEAD means then, if you would.
LEAD means
Stands for?
LEAD, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, and it's just a program that it's really what we try to tell our officers and tell people is it's just another tool in our tool belt to use when we encounter those who may be suffering from a substance abuse problem, that need assistance in some way, whatever that may be. It's really just a link for us to get that person from our encounter with them into the right channel of support or assistance that can help them.
Yes, yes. How long has it been in operation?
So we've been a little over 2 years in operation. There was a lot of work leading up to it, and we're currently sitting in the second year,
Okay.
in full, of the LEAD program.
Okay. I am assuming, and correct me on anything because I don't know, I'm asking, but I am assuming that part of what the LEAD program does would be come in under that linkage to care thing that we've been talking about a little
Absolutely.
bit. So explain that a little bit more, where they come from, for one thing, where they come from being arrested. Is it an arrest,
So it could-
overdose?
It could happen a number of ways. One could certainly be an encounter where we would find someone that has committed a crime, and let's say, for instance, we've been called to a store and they've been shoplifting, and we encounter them and we talk to them. We discover that they've got some needs or they need some assistance. Maybe they even tell us why they're doing what they're doing. And in lieu of arrest, we we divert from there,
Okay.
and hence the diversion,
Yes.
and we put them in touch with those that can help them. It's an option. It's
Yes.
another tool in the tool belt to try to get them off of the cycle of behavior that they may be
Yes.
in. Say maybe they're shoplifting, and the reason they're shoplifting is because of X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And so it's just an approach to try to get them out of that, so that they no longer have to feel like they have to go steal. Now
Yes.
that doesn't happen for everybody.
Okay, which I was
But,
going to ask about. Yes.
And there's some that there's certain criteria of crimes that does not fit or allow us to use the lead program.
Okay.
We're not going to be diverting felonies or selling drugs, major crimes. This is
Okay.
for those low-level misdemeanors and quality of life crimes that we can maybe help get that person out, so they don't continue to repeat those things.
Yes. Yes.
Other ways that we can encounter people are through what we call social referral, where we just know
Okay.
somebody. We are very familiar with a lot of people on the street and those we deal with, and we may know of someone, and in the process of just our daily activity, encounter an individual that we know, recognize, identify that they have an addiction problem, and it's a way for us to get them again in the right channel of for assistance, and really bring some people around them to help them walk down that road. You know, it's what we call a handoff, where from law enforcement to that person or those people to help them get the assistance they need. And then again, you brought up the point of overdose. Following up on those overdose incidents, and speaking with those individuals that may have experienced that and hopefully have survived. And then it's a great open opportunity, open door for us to talk to them about, hey, you're not in trouble. We're not here to get in your business about why you overdosed, but can we help you not do that again? Yeah. And so it's a number of different ways, if that answers your question.
Absolutely answers my question. And then who are some of those other organizations then that you would pass off to? Now I know it would vary depending on, whether they're a homeless person, whether they are struggling with addiction, those kinds of things. But what are some of those in your circle?
So we have a person, and she's a non-law enforcement person. She's not a sworn law enforcement officer. She's a lead coordinator, and that's who we would hand off to her. And then she identifies through an assessment type encounter with that person to identify what those needs are. And they may be various. They may be a housing need, job need, food, or mental health assistance, whatever it may be. She identifies what that is and helps. That's the person who kind of directs traffic from there, if you will. So for us, we don't have to do a lot of the figuring out which thing they need. We just hand them off to that coordinator, and through an assessment, they are able to find out what the needs are.
Right. So what would you say is then, and maybe you don't know this then, if you have a coordinator that you kind of pass it off to, but what would you say, first off, can you give kind of a percentage of how many people actually are receptive to your, coming along around them? And I mean, I know it's just a kind of a guess.
So that's a great question. I think a lot of people have so we talk about a stigma with addiction or those that are addicted. I think there's also this thought that nobody's going to talk to the cops, or that they may not be receptive or help. And I always come back and argue against that, because we actually have really good relationships with these individuals. As crazy as it sounds, we know them very well in some situations, either from a history of dealing with them or their family, or maybe they've been a victim on a case before that we've worked, or maybe we've even arrested them before, but we did it in a respectful way, and they trust us, or they have respect for us, and so we have a relationship there to where I feel like rapport is already built, and we're able to say, hey, I really would like to, get some help. Even today, I was talking to a guy who I've arrested, who we've all dealt with, and I wasn't there and I didn't encounter him in a way about what he's been doing or has done, but instead, like, man, you need to get some help.
Yeah.
Because I identify that
Mm-hmm.
he's not doing well.
Yeah.
And so the percentage of people that are receptive, I don't know what a percentage would be, but I would think, I would like to say that a majority are receptive
Right.
to when and it seems very odd coming from the police. Hey,
Yeah.
we want to help you, man.
Yeah, I can kind of see
I,
that.
Can I make a phone call and give you a number to where you can get in touch with this individual? So,
Well, I can kind of see that because you referenced it at the very beginning. You're not necessarily in a hurry to arrest them.
Right.
You're actually kind of talking to them and, kind of getting a feel for where they are in their position in life a little bit.
And some, there's been situations where we have tried to assist, and you never hear back from them, or they don't follow through.
Yeah.
But if 1 out of 10 does follow through, then we feel like that it's worth it or successful.
That's what I was going to ask, is how do you measure your success? Okay, 2 questions. I want to ask that as a 2-part question. How do you measure success as a person personally, and how do you then as the your title measure success?
I think we live in a society where measuring success looks a lot of different ways, and for this, I feel like success, it's hard to measure. Mm-hmm. I think because we don't know the outcome, really. And the outcome may be 5, 10, 15 years from now. Mm-hmm. I think for me, that's success. Success is 10 years from now running into somebody and they say, hey, you remember when you put me in touch with that person? Yeah. This is what it did for me. And so you can't measure that. Yeah. You can, but it's a very prolonged measuring stick, if you will. So I think for us, perspective is that, it's not a tangible thing that we can write down on a stat sheet to say this was successful, this wasn't. It's just, it's committing to it and knowing, like I just said a few minutes ago, if 1 out of 10 buys in or 1 out of 10 follows through with it, we feel like that one's worth the effort or is a success. So that's me personally, and I feel like that's probably the same as in my position in helping coordinate or manage it. It's the same thing. Yeah. Because there's no real way to measure success, quote unquote, other than it's a continued commitment to a partnership with these people, these entities that can help individuals that are addicted or suffering from substance abuse.
Yes. So the LEAD program is separate. Am I right about that? A separate program? Is it funded different?
Yeah, it's funded. It's not funded through the police department. Okay. This is an independent program, if you will. It's just simply we've agreed to host it here. It's funded through grants and other entities, but it's not a budgeted program, if you will, from the town of Waynesville.
Okay. So if the program were to go away, if the funds were to go away, it does sound to me like that really you've still built the relationships.
Yeah. I've said this all for a long time. We were doing this before we had a LEAD program.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm gathering.
I can remember bringing people in here 10 years ago after dealing with them and arresting them or whatever the case was, and them telling us they had an issue or needed help, and us making the phone call to whomever and handing them off. I think what the LEAD program does is it does give it funding, and it does give it some structure and some follow through, and it provides that coordinator.
That's what I was going to
to
ask.
be able to be that peer support
Okay.
that can check on them.
Okay.
It's not a cop that's going and knocking on their door. How are you? It's somebody that doesn't look like a cop, and it doesn't need to be. It's peer support in that manner. So that's what the LEAD program does. It just added add some strength to what we were trying to do.
And a little bit of structure, like you said, yeah. Okay, well, that was very clarifying for me, actually. Okay, let's see. In this area, what are some things that you see that are kind of lacking as far as substance use resources, treatment centers? What are some things being in the field? What do you see that is kind of lacking in this area?
All of it.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy.
No,
I better turn my paper over.
No, I think that there's never enough.
Yeah.
Whether it's housing or whether it's the availability for inpatient facilities or outpatient facilities, whatever the case is. There's never going to be enough of that and enough money put into it.
Yeah.
I think that what I see is a lot of these individuals, they desperately need someone like that peer support to come alongside them and that can help them. And I'm not an expert in that field. I just know what I see. Yeah. And I see that you have some that stay committed for weeks, 2-3 weeks, and then they drop off.
Oh,
and
just not long enough. Yeah.
You don't see them for 6 months. An event happens, triggers them to come back, and then it's just it's just kind of this revolving door of behavior, if you will, and probably mixed in there somewheres that they may get arrested or they're committing a crime. Not always, but that's just kind of this cycle that I see. And so, if there was more availability for assistance and money for, there's not enough housing.
No, there's not enough housing. There's not enough treatment centers. There's not enough
beds,
recovery homes.
Right.
Yeah.
And but things that are structured in a way that that going to set people up for success. And again, I'm not an expert in any of those areas. I just know what I see and hear and have experienced in the last almost 17 years that it's just not. There's just not enough. Yeah. And housing is what we experienced early on with the LEAD program, was trying to assist somebody and couldn't get them in, find a place for them to go. Yeah. Whether it was an apartment, whether it was a trailer, whether it was wherever, there's not enough. Yeah. And there's waiting lists, and then there's vouchers, and it's so. Yeah. Putting somebody somewhere is just one part of the solution. Then in my mind, we've got to teach them how to live.
Yes, it's ongoing. It's recovery for life.
Yeah, it's like life skills to have. Here's this apartment. Now here's how these are some things you need to do to maintain this. Because if you don't, you're going to have 5 other people living in your apartment with you, and you're going to be doing. The only difference is you'll be doing it in here instead of on the street.
Well, and some of them have never had those skills taught to them. If they've been in that lifestyle from early on, or a broken home, or
they don't know how to live in a structure like that. Yeah. And I don't mean that to be ugly. I just see.
Oh no! I know that absolutely.
Those life skills are not there, and so what? How can we come alongside and teach them how to live? Yeah. And those life skills, so they can sustain that living and not just be another, you're going to have this apartment for a month and then you're going to get kicked out because of X, Y, and Z.
And then what?
And then we're right back where we were.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you get pushback from the community at all? For one thing, because, the LEAD program being that first linkage to care after some...
I don't think so.
Or pretty well received, if you will. Do they feel that you're lacking and not doing your job?
No, I think, we here in Waynesville, I think we've been pretty proactive in trying to educate the community on the opioid problem, and to be, when the opioid addiction and overdoses and all those things started to happen, and that really caught people's eye. We were already 5 and 6 and 7 years into it. I can remember in investigations dealing with some of these cases going back to 2008. That's 12 years ago. Yeah. And I remember us getting ridiculed then and being told, well, that's not a big deal. You know, that's not a big deal. Well, that's just pills. It's just pills, pain pills. And so you fast forward into the mid, 2015, 16, 17, attention grew, and now here we are, 2020, and it's a hot button issue, if you will. And I've always argued this is not a new problem. This is a 12 and 13, 14-year problem. It may be not even long. It may be even longer. And I say all that. We've spent probably the last decade doing presentations to teachers and to business owners and the community groups in Waynesville, just trying to educate them as to what the problem was.
Yeah.
And so I don't think any pushback would come simply because we've tried to educate them on what the problem. This is just another way to try to combat the problem.
Yeah.
Because we all know you're not going to arrest your way out of of a problem like this. Now,
absolutely.
some need to. If you sell and distribute and you're responsible for doing that, you need to go to jail. But we're not going to arrest our way out of that problem.
Okay, anything else that you want to add before I ask the final question? Anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to make sure we talked about at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, so my final question, the one I've been asking everybody, is if there was one thing, and we kind of talked a little bit about it, but if there was one thing that you could change about the way substance use is looked at, the way things are handled resource-wise, if there was just one thing for you, stigma, the way drug use and abuse is looked at, what would that be? That one thing that if you could change, what would it be?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that if I could change one thing, it would be that we could all, when I say we, law enforcement, mental health, substance abuse treatment, all these stakeholders could literally be at the same table and understand
That's good.
what we're doing.
Answer, Tyler.
Where you know what we're doing, and I understand where you're coming from, and have a mutual understanding and respect, and not be us versus them, or your thoughts versus my thoughts, or that we should never arrest anybody for drugs versus you arrest everybody for drugs, or whatever the case. That there was this common unity in the approach to combating the issue, and part of all that is the stigma that comes with it, because there is a stigma. Nobody wants to be labeled as an addict or be seen as having that in their closet, if you will. But I would submit that there's hope, and that doesn't have to have the final word, and that if we were all at the same table, working as one, I feel like that.
And just being open to other people's ideas that going along with that. Everybody's kind of closed in their thinking, and I know for me, just educating myself on the whole thing was just huge, and because just being open and considering other people's expertise in their field of work, and taking that as part of your own approach or your own way of addressing issues. So I don't know if that answers. It does. That answers. That actually is a really good answer. I mean, honestly, it's the only way it's going to get solved. Honestly, I mean, we've been coming at it from multiple directions for a very long time. Like you said, and look where we are. It's really not gotten better. It's escalated, and now we're losing hundreds of lives a day, and so something has got to change in the way we are approaching the solution. Coming up with the solution. So. All right.
All right.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.